Hi, I'm Ms. Roz. Today we are going to make crunchy chicken and oats. So some of the ingredients you need are a half a cup of some oatmeal, and then also half a cup of some breadcrumbs. I use plain breadcrumbs, and I also need 1 egg, 2 tablespoons of some milk, some chicken. Right. So I do the fryer, like the parts of the chicken. So thighs, legs or drumsticks, wings. If you want, you could also use chicken breast if that is something you would prefer. And then I also have a mixture of some spices. So in there is 1 teaspoon of some brown sugar, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of curry, half a teaspoon of some salt, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of some ginger. Right. So we are going to be breading our flour, or I'm sorry, our chicken. But one thing I do like to do is with my oatmeal, so you can see how the oatmeal is kind of, in bigger pieces. I personally like when the oatmeal is in smaller pieces, so I like to grind up my oatmeal. So what I do is I put my oatmeal and my breadcrumbs into this container, and what I actually can do is also put in all my spices so that it all mixes evenly. And then, so this is just like a mini food processor. It comes as an attachment to my stick blender, right? The stick blender is the one that has kind of this attachment to it, but this particular one has the food processor as well, right? So I'm going to take this as my lid, right? And then turn it on. Left in there. There we go. And then turn this on, right? And then just grind it. All right, and now my oatmeal is kind of more broken up into smaller kind of breadcrumb pieces. I do need a shallow dish, and so the shallow dish that I find the easiest to use is actually a pie plate. So in one of my shallow dishes, I'm going to put in my breadcrumb mixture. All right, and then in actually another dry plate or pie plate, I'm going to put in my egg and my 2 tablespoons of milk. So scramble up that egg. And then add the milk. All right, and this will be to help bread my ingredients. All right, it will help for the ingredients to stick onto my chicken. All right. Now, my chicken. Right. I'm using chicken thighs today. Right. So what I want to do is take my chicken thigh here, right, and you can see that there is obviously skin around the chicken thigh. Right. What I actually like to do is I do like to kind of trim off some of that skin because I don't find it all necessary. So what I'm going to do is just cut off this portion right here, right, and then a kind of excess here. Right. So I typically just like to have skin on the top portion of my thigh. I don't feel the need to have it all the way around. All right, so just cutting off any of this excess skin here. Right. Now, if you wanted to use a chicken breast, you can use that. I know some people don't like the dark meat, and that's fine. So here is a chicken breast. I'm actually not going to cut it, but I will explain how to. First off, you want to trim off all the excess fat from here. And then what you're going to do is you're actually going to cut it horizontally all the way through and what we call butterflying it. It also, if you can see, this chicken breast is ginormous, so it's very thick, right? And then I would cut it probably into, at least into half, so that it's similar in size to my thigh, especially if I'm going to cook it together, right? So I would butterfly my chicken first. first and then cut it in half, and so then I'd end up with 4 more pieces. All right. So let's go ahead and start breading this. Now you may have heard the term to dredge versus to bread, right? There is a difference, right? Dredging means that we're just using it, we're just dipping our chicken into a dry mixture, right? However, breading means that I'm going to dip it into some kind of wet mixture first, right? And then I'm going to put it in some kind of like breadcrumbs or dry mixture, right? So typically I'm not dredging today. I'm just going to be breading today. All right, so I'm just setting myself up so that I'm ready to do this. So chicken is here, and then I've got my liquid, my breading, and then the container I'm going to put it in. So you can put it in here. You could also put it, if you have a lot of pieces, sometimes I'll put it onto a baking sheet lined in foil. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to just take your thigh here, right, and I'm going to dip it into the wetness here on both sides, right, and then what's going to happen now is that I can now put it into the breadcrumbs, right, and this will help the breadcrumbs to stick to the chicken itself, right, and then stick it into my pan so that I can bake it, right. Now, you would continue doing this with all the pieces of your chicken, right. However, I'm just going to do a quick show of this, right, and there's my chicken, right. Make sure that you wash your hands really well. Right, because you are working with raw chicken, right? Now, you cannot save your egg or your bread because I've now contaminated it with raw chicken, okay? And then the last thing it tells you to do is to pour some butter on it. So what I like to do is, the recipe itself says 4 tablespoons, but what I just like to do is just spoon a little butter over each one and then bake it. So 400 degrees for about an hour is good enough for baking, right? So I would do, this recipe works well with like 4 chicken thighs, and so I would put my 4 thighs in here and then bake it for an hour, all right? And that's kind of the basics of how to make this recipe. Couple of things: internal temperature of chicken, right? Chicken breasts should be somewhere around like 165 or higher. Generally, when I do darker meat like thighs and things, I try to get it closer to 180 just to ensure that it's cooked. If you don't have a thermometer, cut into it and make sure that it is not red. So you know that your chicken is pink when it's raw, but when it's cooked, it should be a nice kind of beige color. So you want to make sure that it's cooked all the way through. And then also when you're working with chicken, you also want to make sure you clean up really well. So make sure that you get a dishcloth or whatever, wipe everything down, and then also spray everything down with some kind of disinfectant. And same thing goes with all of the equipment that you're using. Make sure you wash it really well. If you have a dishwasher, ideally throw it through the dishwasher so it gets sanitized. But that's the basis of crunchy chicken and oats. So hopefully you enjoy that, and I will see you next time. Thank you.